When I first started performing basic car washes or wash and wax details on cars, I would rinse down the wheels, tires, and fenders. I would fill up my wheel bucket, the bucket I'm going to use with all my wheel products and tools, all the way to maybe 3 to 5 gallons of water. And on top of that, I would also fill up my 2 bucket wash buckets for the 2 bucket wash method up to the 4 to 5 gallon mark. And on top of that, I would also rinse down the car. So I'd rinse it down. I'd have a 35 gallon bucket with water to clean the wheels. Then I'd rinse down the car, and then I have 2 5 gallon, 4 to 5 gallon buckets of water to wash the car. And sometimes I'd even foam it down if the car was dirty. And the end result is, of course, a clean car, but also a lot of water all over the ground. And after a while, I noticed it was an excessive amount of water that I was using just to clean a vehicle. And not even that, but not all customers really needed that much of an extensive car wash or any type of service pertaining to that thorough cleaning. Because number one, if they're just hiring for a basic detail, whether it be a wash and wax, but their budget is very limited, and you two have agreed that it wasn't going to be that extensive, then you don't need to take it that far with your tools and products unless you want to and spend more time than you need to. You don't need to go that far, because as long as both are understanding of, hey, this is going to be a basic detail, this is what you want, this is what you're going to get, you don't need to go the entire 9 yards if that's not what the customer wants. And regardless if I'm in a driveway or parking lot or on the side of the street, it's very inconvenient for me to leave water literally everywhere across on the ground for others to step into. So if you're at a parking lot and you foam it down, you rinse it down, you're using the 2 bucket wash method, you are leaving such an inconvenience to so many others around you, especially if there are other vehicles near you. So maybe there's more cars, maybe two parking spots down from you, and everyone's gonna be walking by you. Well, a good amount of people might be walking by you. They're gonna track water into their own vehicles, into the building that they're working in. Or if you're working at a house in their driveway and there are people walking by, then they'll track that water and dirt into their vehicle and into their car. And not only that, but you also get wet, your shoes wet, your socks wet, if you're going to be a lot of wheel cleaning or paint correction later down the road on that vehicle, you're going to be getting your pants wet, your knees wet. So it's a big inconvenience for yourself and for others when you just douse the entire car down and use as much water as possible. Now, I get it, if you are trying to perform an extensive detail and the car is really dirty, then yes, it will justify using a bit more water than usual. But on every detail, I try to use the least amount of water possible to get the job done. I simply just don't like using that much water. I think it's absolutely unnecessary. And then most of the time, the level of detail that I'm performing doesn't require me to go full throttle on every single last part of the car with as much water and as much product and cleaner that I absolutely need. And to go back to the point of leaving so much soap and water and dirt on the driveway, imagine if a customer just had their concrete cleaned, pressure washed, and is looking brand spanking new, and then you're using so much water and soap to take off the dirt and the brake dust off the wheels, off the paint, and then you're gonna leave a lot of residue on the ground that will dry from the sun and then form into stains that's on brand new concrete that they have. So that'll be on you, and if you want to avoid that, you can't just go in there using as much water as you possibly can. Sometimes you will have to find alternatives, because if you're also in a business center and a shopping center with a lot of other cars around you and you're trying to douse the entire car down while there's other cars around you, that's a big inconvenience and very irresponsible of you just to wash someone's car while you're getting a lot of overspray on everyone else's vehicle. You don't know if they just had their car cleaned. You don't know if that's going to bother them. You don't know if they're going to come out and complain to you. So it is an inconvenience that you have to keep in the back of your mind when you're going to perform these washes. And adding on top of that, some cities, states, counties, areas in your city possibly have some type of restrictions or laws or rules or guidelines amongst how you use the water and where it goes to. So, you may just say, oh, I'm gonna go wash cars on whatever street, and I'm just let it go into the drain. Some cities, some counties, some states do not allow runoff water to go into the drain. You really have to be careful, because you can be fined I don't know how much, depends on, wherever you live, but that is a possibility that you may run into, where you can potentially get fined if you don't have the proper licensing, or if you're not if you're not collecting the water that you're using to go dispose of it somewhere properly. So definitely keep that in mind as well. And there are plenty of different wash methods, wash systems you can use to do a proper wash without marring or damaging or scratching the paint. There are plenty of alternatives. Don't be so closed-minded or so narrow focused where you only think there's one way to do it, and that's by complete foam wash, a 2-bucket wash method with 2 different wash mitts while using 3 different drying towels. There's plenty of different options. If the vehicle is not that bad, I'll just go with a rinseless wash with 1 wash mitt, 1 bucket, filled up to 3 to 5 gallons of water. Or if the vehicle is much worse or it needs a little more attention, then I'll still use 1 bucket, but perhaps use towels instead of wash mitts, or use 2 wash mitts to make sure I'm I'm using 1 wash mitt for the dirty areas and the other wash mitt for not so dirty areas. Or if it's really bad, I will use a 2-bucket wash method, but I won't fill up the buckets all the way. I'll be very selective. It really depends, but there are plenty of different alternatives than having to use 20 gallons of water just on 1 vehicle. So I try to use probably under 7 gallons per vehicle to wash a car. That's just me. I don't like using too much water. I don't like the mess it creates. I don't think it's necessary, so that's what I go after. Yes, there are limitations. If it's a really caked on, ugly, nasty brake dust on wheels, if the truck has been washed in 3 months and they go mudding all the time, then yeah, you kind of, you're gonna held tight, and you're gonna have to use more water, a pressure washer, and just, a more extensive cleaning. But if it's not at that level, I'll try to go with the least amount of water, the least amount of mess that will get me effective results in the quickest time possible. Let me know in the comments below how much water you use, how long it takes you, what's your workaround if you're working like in business centers or parking lots where the other cars around you. Let me know all the details so others can learn from it too. I personally try to use the least amount of water possible. That's just what I go for. It's your business, your preference. You can do whatever you want. Just make sure it works. I'll see you on the next video.